You don't want to sound like a robot or sound flat if you speak, do you? So, in order not to sound like a robot or not to sound flat, we have to know when to rise and fall. We have to know how to intonate our utterances. We have to know which syllables or word that we need to put a stress on. And here are my 3 tips that'll help you, hopefully, to have a better intonation when speaking in English. Okay, first of all, you have to know which syllable on each word that we should put a stress on. Okay, for your information, every single word in English has its own syllable that we need to put a stress on when reading it, when reading the word. For example, the word pandemic, the stress is on the second syllable, which is da. So you have to say pandemic. The stress is on the second syllable. You don't say pandemic, but you say pandemic. So to get to know this, maybe by checking on your electronic dictionary, you can do it. It'll help you a lot. And here's my second tip. Sometimes intonation deals a lot with one's accent. So a British accent sometimes intonate differently from American accent. So in an interrogative sentence, for example, British will tend to have the rising intonation and then falling in the end of the type of word. So they say, would you give it a go? So for the word go, they have the rising intonation at first and then they go falling in the end of it. So they say, would you give it a go? But for American accent, in the end of that type of sentence, they use rising intonation. Would you give it a go? Would you give it a go? See, it's rising in the end of the sentence. So what I mean by that is that you have to stick to one accent to be consistent in your intonation. Our last tips for the day. If you have decided about which accent you want to use when speaking in English, that you have to pay attention to how people, native speakers intonate, to how a native speaker do intonation on every single word, every single sentence they say in their daily conversation. So you might want to watch them from YouTube or from movies or something. And yeah, of course you have to stick to your accent. So if you prefer using a British accent, then watch British English movies. And if you want to stick to American accent, then you can watch American English movies. Okay, now if you watch those English movies a lot, then you might have known that you might have understood that they intonate sentences differently. When it is a statement, they are commonly intonated in a flat way. So they don't put a stress on. But sometimes they do. So for example, you can say, that is so expensive, rather than that is so expensive. Because here you might want to tell the people that you talk to that, the price of the thing that you talked about is way beyond your financial capacity. Yeah.